Supreme Court ruled on two big cases this week, and they'll have a major impact on religious rights and your health care. We're going to bring in legal legend Alan Dershowitz. He's the host of the podcast The Dersh Show. He's also the author of The Case Against the New Censorship, Protecting Free Speech from Big Tech, Progressives, and Universities. Welcome, sir. I'm glad you're here to break this all down because this was a lot of legalese coming out of the Supreme Court. I want to start with a religious...
Thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate you for using the Kate Smith rendition of God Bless America. I think it was an absolute scandal for the New York Yankees and the Philadelphia Flyers to take that down. This was a great American who may have sung one or two songs of lyrics that she didn't write when she was a kid. The idea of canceling her and taking that incredibly great rendition down always offended me deeply. When I went to Yankee Stadium, you know, I'm a Red Sox fan. I didn't love going to Yankee Stadium, but I couldn't wait to hear that rendition of God Bless America. So thank you for running it.
Well, I will say I must give all the credit to my production staff. They keep me out of hot water and make me seem like I know what I'm talking about every Saturday morning. But I want to start with this religious freedom thing, okay? The court ruled 9-0 that, you know, an adoption agency in Philadelphia was allowed, in fact, to refuse service to same-sex couples. Even the liberal justices agreed with this, which my mind was blown. Walk us through this decision and why even the liberals jumped on board.
Well, first of all, I think the decision tells us a lot about the future. It tells us that the cake case, the case involving the man who refused to bake a cake for a married couple, he's going to win that case. He may not win it 9-0, but he'll win it 6-3 or 7-2. Second of all, it shows us that the Supreme Court is not in a kind of conservative revolt mode. They're trying to render decisions that are consensus decisions. And I think that the three liberal justices joined this decision to avoid it becoming an extreme decision one way or the other. That's what Justice Alito thought as well. It was really judicial statesmanship. This Supreme Court is going to favor religion. It's going to focus on the free exercise clause of the Constitution, and it's going to say when there's a conflict between secular concerns and religious concerns, the religious concerns win. Whether I agree with that or not, my job as an analyst is to tell you what I think the Supreme Court's going to do. In this case, 9-0 foreshadows, I think, more cases in which religion wins over secular concerns.
Yeah. And what I think is important to note here is the Supreme Court didn't say same-sex couples can't adopt. They simply says that if there is a legitimate religious upbringing and fostership of that child, and those foster parents who have been entrusted for the best interests of the child decide that we would prefer not to give a child up to adoption to a same-sex couple, they have that right under the religious exemptions. But if they, you know, they're not saying you can't adopt. They just said that those people have the actual religious choice in legitimate context to not you know, go through with an adoption to a same-sex couple. But,
I agree.
You know, this was a narrow ruling, but you know, the court also ruled to uphold Obamacare. Now, this is something that's been tried 3 times. 7-2 ruling in favor of upholding Obamacare. So this is the third big challenge, obviously. There are challenges out there that are probably going to come up, but I think they're probably dead moving forward. What do you think?
I think they're dead moving forward. I think this was a message from the Supreme Court saying, look, too many people have too much of a stake in their current insurance policies. We're not going to uproot it unless you can come up with the most compelling constitutional reason. And we're going to find every excuse to avoid reaching that constitutional issue. This time it was standing. Last time it was case and controversy and other kinds of issues. But the message is clear. Stop. You've lost. Go back. If you want to make legislative changes, make legislative changes. But don't count on the court to undo what millions of people now count on as their insurance. This was a clear message to the other side to stop, and it was so understood by the 2 dissenting judges.
Yeah, and my issue with that is the formality is I don't think the government should force you to buy anything. If they, you know, like and the argument is, well, you have to buy car insurance. It's like, no, you have to buy car insurance if you want to drive. You don't have to drive. You can take public transportation. I have a strong objection to being forced by the government to purchase.
And the court didn't reach that issue.
Yeah.
The court purposely stayed away from that issue. That issue will be reserved for another day. There may come a time when the court will agree with your point of view. I think it will depend on the circumstances. There are many instances where the government makes you do something and it conditions something else on it, like you can't drive, as you say,
right,
unless you have insurance. There are other things as well. Health, if you don't have health insurance, it may end up costing me a lot more money as a taxpayer. It's a complicated issue, and the court wanted to stay away from it. And I suspect in my lifetime, perhaps not in yours, the court will stay away from that issue and will leave it to the legislatures to make decisions.
Yeah. And beyond the legal argument, my concern is, like, if they legislate that, it becomes like, well, if you eat 17 cheeseburgers a day, you're less healthy, and therefore, then I still have to pay for it under the mandate anyway. So it becomes a political issue very quickly. And I think you're right to say that the courts wanted to stay out of politics. You want it, legislate it on your own, but the court's not going to undo that thing because they couldn't find any hardcore constitutionality against Obamacare. We're 6 months into this new conservative supermajority, 6-3. Any surprises you've seen thus far?
The surprise is that the liberals have had a very good year so far. There's still 2 weeks, 15 opinions left. But thus far, the liberals have had a fairly good year. And those who shouted and screamed and yelled that the conservatives are taking over the Supreme Court don't understand what happens to a person when they put on a robe. When they put on a robe, they generally stop being political, and they look at issues from a legal point of view. And so I don't expect we're going to see a major, major revolution. And I think this term is also a message to the Democrats. Stop with this nonsense about court packing. Stop with this nonsense about changing the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's doing just fine. Liberals win some, conservatives win some. Many cases are unanimous, and this is not this is not the Senate and the House acting. This is the Supreme Court of the United States.
Yeah. Well, I'm very much looking forward to the next session where they're taking up a slew of gun-related issues. Alan Dershowitz, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest-growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.